Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. And I want to say good afternoon, almost good evening, actually, these days to everybody. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday of Parshat Toldot. And it's actually very, very fitting that we're reading Parshat Toldot this week, because Parshat Toldot is essentially the story of Yitzchak Avinu, who was the one of the Avot that was so different than the other two. He is really quite unique. And yet Chazal tell us he is the essence of Gevurah, that he symbolizes Gevurah. Gevurah is courage, but it is so much more. It's courage, it's strength of purpose, it's the idea of knowing what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And Yitzchak indeed had this incredible strength of knowing what he was to do and knowing how he wanted to do it. And actually, if we're going to broaden it a little bit, we need to include his wife. We need to include Rivka Imenu as well in this definition of Gevurah, because you see, we need Gevurah so much these days ourselves. What was it that Yitzchak actually did? You know what he did? When we look at the Parsha, we see that he dug wells, but actually he redug wells. What had happened was Avraham Avinu had dug wells, and they were covered over by the Plishtim, and Yitzchak uncovered them and dug them. And it's symbolic of the fact that the teachings of Abraham were covered over. They needed to be open, they needed to be spread. And so what Yitzchak dedicated himself to doing was uncovering that fresh water of the teachings of Abraham so that they would once again flow in the world. Not only did he uncover the wells of Abraham Avinu, but he would not give up on his son Esav. He was determined to keep Esav as part of the family, and he certainly tried very hard, as we know. And what about the Gevurah of Rivka? Rivka was given a nevuah, and that nevuah helped her to set her goals. She understood so well the ethereal nature of her husband. He who had been the Akedah and who was really a little bit spiritually inclined, I should say a lot, not a little bit. And she knew that she had a goal and that she had to work in a way that did not impinge upon his ruchniut, upon his spirituality, and yet accomplish what her nevuah set for her as a goal. As I mentioned, it is really incredible for us to be reading this parsha at a time that all of us need Gevurah so much. And we have it. We have it. We have seen it. We have seen examples of Gevurah over and over again in the past 6-7 weeks, ever since that fateful October 7th of this year, Simchat Torah, Tuf Shin Pei Dalet. My son Yaakov told me something, shared something with me last week, Erev Shabbos, that I wanted to relate to you, speaking about Gevurah. He told me that he was watching a blog on the internet, and the blog was given by Rav Meidan, Yaakov Meidan of Yeshivat Har Etzion, who was in conversation with Rav Eldar, also a teacher at Yeshivat Etzion, Har Etzion, and they were speaking to each other about the war. And Rav Meidan mentioned that he went to the hospital to visit some of the soldiers that were wounded. and he was speaking to an officer who was a very, very high-ranking officer who had suffered a wound. And he said to the officer, "So what is your opinion of what's going on?" And the officer answered him, "You know, Kvod Rav, it was really very hard on that first day. We were really taken completely by surprise. We had no chain of command. We were totally unready. The people who responded all responded on their own." He told Rav Meidan that there were acts of Geulah that will be discussed for generations. People will tell stories of men that left their homes when they heard that what was going on and just walked westward towards those communities that lie on the border of the Gaza Strip. They just went there to help out. They went there to fight off the enemy to protect the people. On that first day, there was no chain of command. Nobody was giving orders. However, he said, I assure you that by the next day, things began to fall into place. The army recovered. The officers took charge. The chain of command was established, and we began fighting a wise and well-charted, well-planned out war. And so we will speak about the acts of Gevurah, but now we are acting as an army should. And Rav Meidan went on to say to Rav Eldar, you know, this is not the first time that Yisrael have been caught unawares, not only in our present day, but also in the Torah. And he began comparing the battle, the way it turned out on October 7th, to Milchemet Amalek, as it's described in the Torah. And she said, you know, Milchemet Amalek in the Torah is described to us twice. The first time in Parshat B'Shalach, when it actually happened. And the second time in Parshat Kiteitzei, where we're given the mitzvah of remembering what Amalek did to us. Zachor et asher asalacha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did. And he said, we need both versions of the story to understand what really happened. Because if we look in Parshat B'Shalach, when that first battle with Amalek actually took place, we read, and I'm quoting, Vayavo Amalek, Vayilachem im Yisrael b'Refidim. It tells us, Vayavo, they came suddenly, and they fought with Yisrael in Refidim, but it doesn't tell us what happened. It just tells us the result. And the result was, we know, Moshe says to Yehoshua, gather an army. But if we go to Parshat Kiteitzei in Sefer Devarim, we read what happened in that surprise attack. We read Zachor, the mitzvah, remember what Amalek did to you, B'derech, when you were on the road, B'tzeitchem Mitzrayim, when you were coming out of Mitzrayim, you know what he did? Asher korcha b'derech, he came upon you suddenly. Korcha, he happened upon you, he came to you suddenly, you had no idea that that was happening. Vayizanev b'cha kol hanecheshalim, Acharecha. And you know who he attacked? The weak, who were straggling in back of you. He attacked the women. He attacked the children. He attacked the weakest part of the army. Va'ata oyef v'yagea. At a time that you were weary, that you were tired, v'lo yirei Elokim, and perhaps you were questioning if HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with you. Essentially, said Rav Meidan, when we read the version in Parshat Kiteitzei, we see that Amalek came upon Am Yisrael suddenly. They attacked civilians, the weakest of the civilians, at a time when they were also psychologically weak and weary. And what did Moshe say to Yehoshua? Vayomer Moshe el Yehoshua, I'm going back to the version in Beshalach. B'char lanu anashim, choose men for us. V'tzei ilachem ba'amalek machar. And here is the key word with Amalek. Say, v'hi lachem ba'amalek machar. Organize yourself, said Moshe, and go out with your army and fight with Amalek machar, tomorrow. Anochi nitzav al rosh hagiva umateh ha'elokim biyadi. I will stand on the top of the mountain here, and I am going to have the rod of Elokim, of Hashem, in my hand. Basically, that battle with Amalek was organized beautifully. It was organized so that Yehoshua led an army that began the fight the next day, machar. The word machar is used again and again with Amalek. Machar. Let us organize. Moshe said, I will take the other task. I will stand on top of the hill and I will be davening. And we will have a combination of the army that will begin to get its strength, machar, and the people who will be watching me as I lift my hands to heaven and daven, machar. To give you an example of the use of the word machar and what it means when it comes to Milchemet Amalek, I want to remind you of Megillat Esther. We read in Megillat Esther that when Esther decided that she would obey Mordechai and go to the king, that she was planning her moves carefully. She first went to the king and invited him and Haman to a party. And when they came to the party and the king asked her, Ma bakashatech Esther HaMalka, what is your request, Esther HaMalka? What do you want? Ad chatzi hamalchut v'te'as. You can even ask for half of the kingdom, it will be done. And you know what Esther said? Yes, I'm sorry. But I got a call in the middle and I couldn't turn it off right away. Queen Esther said, tomorrow, Yavo HaMelech v'Haman, I'm going to make another party and I want you to come machar. Here was that machar again. And all of our great Mefarshim tell us, with Amalek, you have to be very well prepared. You have to know what you are doing. And you need to have a double-pronged attack. And you have to plan it machar, so that the next day you can fight on two fronts. One is on the battlefield, and the other is in tefillah. Machar. We learn it with the original battle, and we learn it with Esther. How can we put that into effect today? I will tell you, and this is something else I heard. Another friend of mine, not my son this time, my friend Elisheva, is a French speaker. And so she hears a lot of French that I do not hear. I know a little bit. I have high school French, but that's it. And she sent me a beautiful talk today by a Mekubal, by a Kabbalistic scholar, who said, OUisrael, every single day in our tefillot, we have the right words and we don't pay attention. Every single day in the Birchat HaShachar, the Birchot HaShachar, the blessings that we make early in the morning, we have a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, etc. Matir Asurim, he who loosens those who are bound, who are being held. Do you know that we say it every day? And I bet you do what I do. At any rate, it's on this phone. I can't stop it. At any rate, every single day we make that bracha in the Birchot HaShachar. And then again at the beginning of Shmona Esrei, we refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Mechalkel Chayim L'chol Chai, he who supports life for all who are alive. Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim, he brings the dead back to life. So Mech Noflim, he supports those who are fallen or falling. Umatir Asurim, and he frees those who are bound. We need to remind ourselves that every single morning and every time we say Shmona Esrei 3 times a day, we are referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as he who frees those who are being held. We have a 2-pronged attack, just like there was with Milchemet Amalek, just like Rav Meidan described. Yes, it is true that we were taken by surprise on that first day, but now we have a 2-pronged attack that is set into place. The 2-pronged attack, just like Moshe said to Yehoshua, gather an army. That's what we did, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given wisdom to the leaders of our army, and they are doing the right thing. Baruch Hashem, may they continue. But we also have the tools, each one of us, every one of OUIsrael in our tefillah. And this Rav, this Mekubal said, imagine if 2,000 people every day, when they make the bracha Matir Asurim in the Birchot HaShachar, and when they begin the Shmona Esrei and refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the, capital letters, the Matir Asurim, the one who frees those who are held hostage, those who are bound. Imagine if 2,000 people would every day when they get to those words, think for a moment, stop just for a split second and say, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you, it is in your hands, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You are the one who frees those who are held captive. You are the one who have the power and the ability to free our captives. Imagine if 2,000 people every day would storm the gates of heaven when we say the words that are there for us already. They have been built into our tefillot. They are meaningful in every sense of the word, but certainly in that plain, simple sense that we need today. Rabbonu Shalom, we turn to you as the Matir Asurim. We turn to you as the one who can do a miracle and who can bring about the freeing of our hostages. B'mheira v'yameinu. So, my friends, this week, we really have a charge. It is a huge charge. And that is, we are reading Parshat Toldot, and Yitzchak Avinu and Rivka Imenu are the very essence of Geulah, the very essence of not letting an opportunity pass, the essence of knowing what your goal is and moving towards that goal no matter what. And we can compare the battle that we're fighting now to that battle, which is the quintessential battle that OUisrael have with the force of evil. The force says, unfortunately, plural, the forces of evil, Amalek. We know that in Parshat B'Shalach, it ends, the Parsha ends, the story of Amalek ends the Parsha. We are told, Vayomer, Moshe says, Ki yad al keis ka. The Rebbetzin Shalom's hand is on his throne, meaning he swears. HaKadosh Baruch Hu swears by his own throne of glory. Milchama Lashem ba'Amalek midor dor. I swear, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I have a battle. I have a war with Amalek. Amalek, the quintessential evil. The evil that does not recognize the idea of there being a Borei Olam, who has given us sets of morals to follow in our human behavior. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I have that war. And we have the tools in our tefillot. In our tefillot, we can say, Baruch, Atah, Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we bless you, and we ask you to do this, Matir Asurim, because you can free the hostages. You can do it. Our tefillot are built for us to participate in this two-pronged war. The war on the ground, the war that willy-nilly we must fight. We must do that. And the war that we equally must do. It is called tefillah. It is called lifting your hands up to heaven. Do you remember what Chazal say about that war, the war with Amalek, the first one? When Moshe says to Yehoshua, you will fight on the ground, and I will lift my hands. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, according to the Medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to know, V'chi yadav shel Moshe osot milchama. How can it be that Moshe lifting his hands to heaven is helping the war effort? Do the hands of Moshe make war? And the answer given by Chazal is, as long as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as long as OUisrael lift their eyes to heaven and aim their hearts at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and believe in him and see his presence, hayu mitgaberim, they will always be successful if they follow the hands held on high and look heavenward, hayu mitgaberim. they will always be successful. There's our promise, my friends. Our promise is, with our tefillot be'ezrat Hashem, with our wonderful young men on the ground, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu watch them, with our wonderful parsha that we are reading this week, and all of the learning that all of us try to do as best as we can on a regular basis. Hayu mitgaberim. OUisrael will always be successful as long as they turn their heads upward, Lashamayim. So may it be a good week with Besorot Tovot all around, only good things for everybody. Thank you for listening, and may it be a Shabbat Shalom. Chodesh Tov as well.